I got married in 2017. Among many other things, I am an event planner by trade, so I planned our entire wedding. My husband just let me do my thing. In exchange for that, he chose where we went on our honeymoon, and he chose Greece. By that time, we were already 4 years into the Syrian refugee crisis. Greece, specifically the Greek island of Lesbos, was overloaded with refugees that were desperate for help. And they weren't just from Syria. They were from Afghanistan, they were from Iraq, they were Kurdish refugees, they were Congolese refugees, a mix of people who were fleeing war, genocide, and violence at home. I couldn't go on this beautiful vacation and celebrate this beautiful new marriage knowing that so many people so close by had their lives completely destroyed and were searching for help. And lucky for me, I married a man who felt the same. So we booked our trip to Greece, and we spent the first 3 days of our honeymoon in a refugee camp, Moria refugee camp on the island of Lesbos. Aside from showing people love, I'm pretty useless in the what I have to offer as a volunteer in a refugee camp realm. But my husband is fluent in Arabic and was a translator for doctors and nurses at the medical clinic. Because women and children are the most vulnerable and the ones who suffer the most in conflict and war and genocide, the majority of the appointments that my husband was translating were gynecological appointments. He was working in the medical clinic, which was just a trailer in the middle of a refugee camp. He would face the wall with his back to the curtain, which would act as a divider between him and the doctors and the patients, and he would translate between the doctors and the patients. It was 12 to 14-hour days that would start at 6 or 7 in the morning and last until 7 to 9 at night, depending on how many patients were in line that day to see doctors and get medical attention. And I'll never forget this one patient that my husband was present for her appointment. She was a young mom of 2 young kids. It was her and her husband. They had just arrived on the island via one of those rubber boats that were notorious for capsizing in the ocean. She was about 6 or 7 months pregnant, and she had come to the clinic because she had told the doctor that she no longer felt movement from the baby for the last 2 to 3 days. It was a pretty basic clinic. You came for antibiotics, Advil, if you needed a wrap or a cast, Band-Aids, cleaning up infections and cuts and bruises, and just, making sure if people needed certain medications because of diabetes or heart issues. Sometimes the clinic had those, but for the most part, it was pretty basic. They weren't able to do any fancy procedures. They had virtually no equipment, and this woman needed an ultrasound. So the doctor prescribed her an ultrasound, and it was maybe 1 or 2 euros for the bus to get to a nearby hospital to hopefully be able to get an ultrasound to find out whether or not her baby had passed away while she was in transit. I never found out what happened to her and her baby. I assume it was the worst possible outcome. But that was the type of appointments that he was present for. And while he was doing that, I was cleaning up throw up in the clinic, putting Band-Aids on cuts, cleaning up some blood, and playing with little kids while their parents were in line waiting to get medical attention. We got home from our honeymoon, back to the city, met up with some friends, one of whom is one of my very good friends. Her name is Yasmin. She's an incredible psychologist and philanthropist. And she started asking me questions about the kids in the refugee camp. And I remember telling her that the one thing that every single child had in common, regardless of where they were a refugee from, and the common subject among all of the kids, all of their conversations, was about how much every single one of them missed being in school. They missed learning, they missed the structure, they missed being able to go to class, they missed their teachers, they missed their friends, they missed their classrooms, they missed everything about school. And everybody, when you hear of a refugee crisis, you immediately think of the medical attention that they need, of the food and the shelter that they need. Education typically takes a back seat, and a child receiving an education, which I believe is a basic human right as a child. Every child has the right to access to education. You're not just taking away their ability to learn a language or to learn math skills or science. You take away their opportunity to socialize. You take away their confidence. You take away their mental health. And this was something that Yasmin really held on to. You know, most people, when you have this type of conversation with them, it's, oh, that's so terrible. And we're so fortunate to not be in that situation. That's the usual reaction. Yasmin was different. She's a solutions-based person. And so she saw a problem and knew that she had resources and the educational background and work experience to come up with a way to solve that problem. And within months, an organization called the Global Schoolhouse Initiative was born. She put together an incredible team of engineers and software developers and teachers and professors and psychologists who were able to create a resiliency-based educational curriculum for children ages kindergarten through 5th grade through this virtual schoolhouse that brings education access to remote areas of the world and to children in places like refugee camps. The lessons are all translated into the local language and dialect of whatever community a schoolhouse is being delivered to. And every schoolhouse comes in something called a hope box, which you can read a little bit more about in this link. Lessons are continuously updated and programs are created to fit the needs of the children in the communities that these schoolhouses now live in. Since officially launching the first school, there are 5 global schoolhouses that are in action, that have been in action since 2017, and there are 3 that are upcoming. Current schools are operating in Mexico, in Uganda, in Colombia, and in Indonesia. This year, the plan is to launch another school in another location in Mexico, one in Bulgaria, and the reason for this video, inshallah, Gaza. I've been talking to some journalist friends in Palestine, and also there are so many Palestinian children in Gaza with their own social media accounts that make their videos about how much they miss school. And so, full circle moment with my friendship with Yasmin, we're gonna try to get 5 schoolhouses into Gaza. You guys know that I am picky about the organizations that I choose to work with, and that I choose to support and put my name behind, and this is one of them. In addition to getting these schoolhouses with these lesson plans that are already working wonderfully in other places of the world, we are working with child trauma psychologists to put together a specific lesson for Palestinian children surviving genocide in Gaza right now. And as I feel completely undeserving of this specific honor, Yasmin and the team at the Global Schoolhouse Initiative decided to name this program for kids in Gaza Janan. You can read more about this specific program that's in development and the current schools that GSI is operating around the world and see videos of the schools in action. The goal is to raise $100,000 in order to get 5 schoolhouses into Gaza. Every time a new schoolhouse is in the works, a fundraising campaign goes up because that ensures that the people who are working on the software, who are working on the lessons, and who are building this school and then go to implement this school in the communities where the schoolhouse will live, all of those costs are covered, and it ensures that the school remains completely free. Delivery, supplies, the running the program, everything remains free for the community that the school is being implemented in. And so the funds from this campaign will go to cover those same costs, but also covering the cost of developing this program specifically for children in Gaza, and making it very clear that every single penny that you donate to this campaign goes to the GSI team, the funding for the school. There is no influencer commission or anything that other organizations tend to do when they are raising funds for a community. Every single penny that is donated to this campaign goes into these schools. And I say all of this because when you are asking people for money, transparency is very important. So that's the goal, $100,000 for 5 schoolhouses that contain resiliency-based educational curriculums for grades K through 5, translated into the local Arabic dialect in Gaza, with the creation and inclusion of a specific program geared towards supporting the mental health of Palestinian children who are surviving a genocide in Gaza. This program, again, is specifically made just for those children, and it's going to be created by Yasmin's team, which includes Palestinian trauma psychologists. And to get the Global Schoolhouse Development Team into Palestine, either into or as close to Gaza as they possibly can get, in order to implement the schoolhouse into the community and teach the community how to use it. And just as an aside on how the schoolhouse works, all you need is one literate adult in the community that is willing to volunteer at minimum 1 hour to as many hours as they want a day to keep the school running. We talk a lot about answering Palestine's call, specifically Gaza's call right now. And right now that call is for access to education for Palestinian children in Gaza. And I really believe that this is how we do it. These are what my friends are asking of me. My friends and family who are in Palestine, who are journalists, who are surviving genocide, who are surviving occupation. Everybody talks about the need for education, and they came to me for help, and this is what I have to offer. And I think that this is a pretty incredible thing that we can all offer, that we can all get behind and support Palestinian children who are desperate for education. You can read more about everything that I just talked about in this donation link. Please use it. Please share it with friends and family and colleagues. Like we said, a ceasefire is not where our work ends, it's where it begins. That's step 1. So now it's time to rebuild, and I hope that you'll choose to do it with us. I forgot to say the link is in my bio.